Hi folks, Champagne Friday again. Raining outdoors, had to stay indoors. We had a few fantastic spots where we wanted to go, but we didn't like to do things like that with this clothes. You see this, but I'm starting to make some commercials for Berkeley clothes, the shirts, so I can't get them wet. That would not look nice. Anyway, I will taste something completely new for me. It's basically Premier Cruise, and additional, or even the base is mostly the home village, Epernay, the city. Very rarely you taste pure champagnes from Epernay, but I have one claw here, which is one of the very few, perhaps the only one that is sold as a single vineyard champagne. Just 2,800 bottles from a claw. Patrick Boivin, never heard about before. I just read on the website, and I got 3 bottles and I pre-tasted a little bit. But before that, I want to answer one of the most common questions we got in the Champagne Club. It's about, but Richard, what do you like among all the other sparkling wines in the world? Why don't you write about the other great Proseccos and the Cavas, etc.? Come on, friends, it's champagne. I will put it like this. When you go to Sauternes, I've been tasting all of the famous chateaux, and I've been doing that quite few years. And I always come to the conclusion, in blind tastings, there is one which is so much superior to all the others. That is Chateau de Quel. It's not a secret, it's just perfection. Terroir-wise and even in vinification, because they can afford, since the fame is so great, they're always better than the second and the third and the fourth. It's always the same case, for me at least. In the wine world, if you speak about different districts and types of wine, if you are a red wine connoisseur, sometimes you prefer a Barolo, sometimes you prefer a Ribera del Duero, sometimes you want a big blockbuster from the United States. And most of the time it's a fight between Bordeaux or Bourgogne. But when it comes to sparkling wines, there is only one place, one region where everything's gone completely right, and that is the Champagne district. The major reason is the fact that the terroir is so unique. You have very pure chalk in many places around the globe. You can go to very similar terroir in Sweden, but it's too cold. You can find a very similar terroir in Jerez, in southern parts of Spain, but it's too warm. So the perfect combination between the soil and the climate is so unique. It's so unique that even within Champagne, there is only 17 villages with entire perfection. The Grand Crus, as simple as that. So, having said that, knowing that the preconditions are so much better, we are looking at next step. Is it worth making a perfect sparkling wine from a spot which is not perfect? Rarely. So, most of the producers around the globe are looking for price performance or marketing parts to make a sparkling wine that is good where it's situated in its own class, but not directly competing with the champagnes. The exception right now is that so many people are speaking about English or British sparkling wine. Yes, they're very, very good. They are sensationally good from their origins. They're much better than we expected them to be, mostly because of the climatic change. It's been too humid, it's been too cold, it's getting slightly warmer, and it's a soil which is slightly similar to Champagne, but it's not the same. It's not the Grand Cru terroir, and it's not the Grand Cru weather. So you will end up with having great sparkling wines from England that are approximately at the same level as non-vintage champagnes on the lower class. And price-wise, they're up here, folks. It's very, very, very expensive. You have great vinification in other places. You have some tremendously made Tasmanian ones. You have tremendously American, etc. But perfection when it comes to who is making it, how it's been done, and made with the perfect preconditions in terroir and climate, Champagne is so superior. And that is completely, exclusively rare for one type of wine, that you have a clear winner. That is sparkling wines in the world. You understood? You got it? Champagne is without any competition. So, time to taste some Patrick Boivin. Premier Cru, Blanc de Blanc. We're trying to see which vintages. We couldn't get it out because there is a little bit of Damery, there's a little bit of Epernay, there's a little bit of Pierry, and there's a little bit of Cumière. But when I taste, I suspect there is a very, very high amount of Pierry. Why? Because of the Swedish ice cream Piggelin. It's caramel-like, lollipop-like, very nice, but a little bit artificial tutti frutti aroma, where you have this very soft pear and ananas, we say. Pineapple is the name. In Sweden, pineapple is called ananas, and we always have this joke. Is it called ananas or ananas? No, it's actually pineapple. So this pineapple note together with pear, that's the caramel, little bit over tropical note. But underneath that, in Pierry, you have a very stony soil. You have a very focused, well integrated and rich and serious terroir in the wine. And that's exactly what we see here. Dominated by those aromas, those more tropical, those lollipop notes. Vanilla pods. I prefer the taste. I think it's clearer than the nose. It's more serious. It's got this very nice attack. Quite hard acidity at mid palate or first attack. A little bit short, but clear and chalky finish, where the fruit is not as evident, not as slightly artificial, that you can suggest from the nose. Medium good to good Blanc de Blanc from Pierry base. Non-vintage, what is that? It's called Icon, and this one is, I look at the back label, doesn't say on the front label, but it's actually a pure 15, and I forgot to say, the first one, the Blanc de Blanc, was a pure 14. Here you have the richer vintage of 15, a blend of the three grapes, very much dominated by Pinot Meunier on the nose, but not this caramel typicity, more a serious note of a little bit of violets, a little bit of dried fruits, and also some quince. Nice spiciness to the wine. I think it's a great vintage to make a type of wine like this, because the Meuniers are very good in 15. It's actually one of the best vintages ever for Pinot Meunier. And normally so many people say that Pinot Meunier is as good as the other two fantastic grapes. For me, not. It's very rarely that the Pinot Meunier dominated champagnes are in the same league. But in 15, they're very flattering and nice from the start. This is a great typicity of the grape. So, the most interesting and striking wine here is, of course, this one, Le Clos 667. It's just the name of the clos. In Epernay, 2/3 Chardonnay and 1/3 mix of Pinot Meunier and Pinot Noir. 2,800 bottles, 09 vintage. By far the best of the three, as it should be. A little bit left of this tropical notes that you found that we found in the first two wines, but this time it's much more complex. It's much more spicy. There's a lot of bready notes and also a typical honeyed note from maturity and from the very rich and fat vintage of 2009. A little bit of citrus, a little bit of jasmine, magnolia, those kind of things. More in the taste, and we don't eat those kind of flowers. But you can obtain those flavors which are similar to what you find with your nose when you breathe through the wine. That's a very interesting and forgotten about aspect of tasting champagne. That sometimes you can sense things on your palate with your tongue, which is things that you never tasted, but it's very obvious that you find those aromas. And it's logical, because what we get on the palate is the sensation in the palate, in the mouth, but very much driven by the smell that you obtain when you breathe through the wine. Not a very great champagne, this one either, but very interesting and definitely one to follow. I'm surprisingly young, actually. I think I will age this for 10 to 20 years more, and you will have something more in the style of a Claude Moulin or something like that. Very intense, very perfumed, very in its own style. Not so classical, but very interesting champagne. So, medium nice experience to meet Patrick Boivin, who is third generation and driven by a lady with a very tricky name to pronounce, so I skip it. But anyway, it's a lovely family and they making a good work from Epernay and the surroundings. See you next Friday!